What is going on, everybody? Acclaim, and we've got some offensive tips for you. Today, we're looking at gun wide trips, and the play is Packers Smash. So if you don't run the Packers playbook, I don't know what else to tell you because this is very playbook specific. Although if you run a custom playbook for whatever reason, you can add this in, as I think it's one of the better plays in the game. However, a lot of concepts in this formation are actually very good and very usable in other formations in the game. Specifically, one formation that I'm going to be breaking down later this week that you'll see some similar stuff that we do in this later on. But for right now, we're looking at gun wide trips, Packer Smash. We're going to come out against random play. Now, I could sit here and break down what I do against cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, 2-man under, blitzes, cover 0 blitzes, nickel blitzes, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's really how you want to run and how you want to attack things. So it's really about finding what adjustments and what variations work for you. So instead of me breaking down play-specific stuff, I'm going to just show you all of my setups and why I like to do those setups and kind of just run through them. And then you can go in the lab, go find it yourself sort of thing, where you can feel more comfortable finding and working through all of my variations because I run a very fluid offense. It's not nearly as systematic as some people's. So first things first is here's your base play. You got a comeback, you got a spot, you got a corner, you got a speed in or a drag in from the outside receiver. Now, the first setup I like to do is just streak the tight end. So you're going to look something like that. And I like to motion in this receiver like a half stepper, like one and a half steps. So that's one of those motions where it's going to be a common theme throughout this whole system, this whole scheme is going to be motion him in like a half step like that, snap it, and you're going to see him break over the middle really fast. And in that case, the safety was playing a hook zone, so he came down. But if there was no safety there or it was just the linebacker there, you're running to the open field, up the sideline, probably for a touchdown. The other setups I like to do consist of the tight end on a drag or a whip route. Again, I'll motion the wide receiver on the outside in about a half step. And the reason why I like to put him on a whip route is I end up getting a little bit of a mesh concept with the whip and the dragon. And I also get a high-low with the corner and the whip route. So it's going to stress the user and the computer vertically and horizontally. So it's going to make it very difficult for them to defend everything at once. The reason why I like to put the tight end on a drag route is because it's going to stress the user. Because the drag route's going to get open against most zones, and most people run zone. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to have to user the tight end because you can just kind of keep hitting it. Just keep hitting it, chipping away. Like, watch, you'll see, like, kind of just, boop. Just keep chipping away. Like, it wasn't great there. Defense played it really well, but easy catch, easy read. But what's going to end up happening is they're going to probably have to start using that, and then you're going to end up having the high-low with B over the top, right? So you're going to end up having the drag, and you have the high-low there. Find the hole in the zone as he breaks. They're going to have to user one or the other, and when they start usering one or the other, that's when you can attack the other one. Another setup I like to do would be to streak or fade the tight end and then drag the outside left receiver. Now this is again creating a mesh concept with X and B, or on PlayStation 4 it'd be square and circle. But what ends up happening is the tight end stresses them vertically, and if they don't use the tight end vertically and they don't have the proper zones, you're going to be able to throw a really quick pass to the tight end up the middle of the field. But really you're going to have this nice little mesh concept here with X and B, and X is going to get open right there. But again, B is really one of those routes that they're going to have to user, and they're going to have to adjust their defense in order to account for it, and that's really why I like it. Another thing you can do is motion B across all the way and actually let him set. What ends up happening is you end up with a speed out route now, and the speed out is really good against most zones in the game. As you can see there, really quick, easy catch, easy read. I wouldn't throw it that often, just because it can be picked off. Certain defenses can make that adjustment and jump the route. Another thing I like to do would be motion him across because, again, you already motioned him with the other variations, so you keep things looking the same. And if you watch my previous video, you know I'm actually a really big fan of a whip and a comeback route now. So what ends up happening is you can motion him across and hot route him to a whip route, or the other word would be a zig route, and you end up with a high-low read there with the whip and the zig. In this case, the zig is open, and what ends up happening is it's an easy read, easy catch, easy 7, 8, 10 yards. Now, the second set of variations that I like to do consists of motioning across the corner route, which will then turn him into a post route. Now, what ends up happening with the post route is, post routes over the middle with a high pass lead are very good. Now, it's Randall Cobb in this example, so I'm not going to throw it that often to Randall Cobb. But what ends up happening is you end up with streaking the tight end and then dragging X, or you could put X on an in route or a smart route and in route, depending on what you want to do and kind of how you want to mix it up. But what ends up happening is you get a lot of high-lows, a lot of mesh concepts. Tight end was wide open up the seam. I'm going to hit him, high pass lead, streaking down the field, easy catch. And again, that's just a simple read once you see the linebacker drift a little far to the outside. And you got to keep in mind this is practice mode, so there's no user defender. If there was a user defender, things would be going a little differently. But there's X cutting across the field. X actually pulled the linebacker across the field, which opened up B behind it. Again, there's that mesh concept. There's that high-low concept that we're talking about. That's really all that's all we really want to do. We really want to put stress on different levels of the field, different variations, causing different confusing setups for the defense to have to adjust because they think something's coming, something else happens. They try to cross-man something, something else happens. They try to put zones, but then they run something completely different, all from the same place. So they never actually know what you're trying to do and what actually can work to stop it. Now, this is a very different setup. You're going to end up with a drag, you're going to end up with a speed in, then you're going to end up with a high-low with the speed in and a smart routed in route, which is a nice deep dig. Again, what ends up happening is you get a lot of high-lows, and there's a post route. Now, a taller receiver, bigger receiver might actually catch that, but again, good read. X was open underneath that too, off the middle of the field, off the in route. But it's just one of those things where you have to know your reads and know where you want to go with it. But that's another setup that you can run and run fairly effectively. The last set of setups that I like to do actually don't involve any motion at all. But what I actually end up doing is I would end up streaking the tight end, and I would put B on a smoke screen. Now, what ends up happening with the smoke screen is you get a smash concept on the right side of the field. And a smash concept is, again, another high-low read that stresses the zones. If they're blitzing like they were there, it's a really easy read because the smoke screen is going to be there for a quick pass, turn up field, try to get some yardage. The other variation to that whole idea of the smoke screen with the smash concept would be to actually motion the tight end across. When you motion the tight end across, you can put him on a zig route, so you have the zig or the whip and the comeback again on the left side, and then you can smoke screen the outside receiver on the right, which ends up with a smash concept. So now you got a curl flat on one side, you got a smash on the other, so you have two actual football concepts at play here. And what ends up happening with two actual football concepts is actual football. And there's a corner route that was able to break by the safety, or Roby that's actually a cornerback, easy touchdown. Now, one other setup that I do like to do, and it's not necessarily something that I do all the time, but you'll see why I do it right here, is I actually motion him across like that with the zig route, and then I would actually put X on a fade, so you end up with a whip and a corner and a speed out and a fade. Now, the fade is something that I would use as more of a bailout. It's that swerve option, it's that aggressive catch option, and then you have the high-low, basically bench concept on the right side of the field with a speed out on the left. So you end up just basically reading the defense, what's there, there's X on the fade. Now, of course, the zones were actually really close there. Ultimate team, that receiver might break off of the route a little quicker, or the cornerback might drift a little bit further, might be a tougher throw. Again, that's one of those things that you want to get in the lab. You want to know where your throws are and what you want to do, but that's just another variation that you can run. Another thing would be to motion the tight end across again and put him on a drag this time. When you put him on a drag this time, you end up with a mesh from the tight end and the speed in, or the drag in. And now you could always put X on a fade, or you could slant him over the top just as kind of a backside option, or you could put him on a dig or an in route, or a short in route, or maybe a deep dig, like a smart routed in, something like that. So you get a little bit of a high-low levels concept, you get a mesh concept going. It's a lot of actual football going on here, which isn't normal for Madden, but again, like, it's a lot of simple football concepts that you can incorporate in different ways, all out of the same play. And of course, when you start doing these motions out of other plays, people aren't going to know what you're doing because you're going to then have a full scheme built around it. But it's really just how you want to incorporate this. So like I would probably put him on a slant because I like slants more than ins, although in routes are really good every year. But I would probably put him on a slant just for the way I like to play offense. And then you end up with the slant and the drag and the speed in, and then I'm going to block Eddie Lacy in this case just because I don't want him to go out on a route because it's Eddie Lacy. And like Cheeseburger Eddie, like I'm not having that this year. Like, sorry, bud. You were my favorite running back a couple years ago, but I don't trust you anymore. So again, like I'll put him on an in route this time, so you end up with an in, a speed in, and a drag. So you're going to end up with like 3 different mesh points at different points in this play. And as you can see, if you get the time, you get the opportunity to break across the field like that, you end up with really good things. Now that setup it looks ugly because you have a bunch of routes running really short, and I'm just going to kind of show you here what I mean by 3 different mesh points. You have the drag cutting across right there. Now the drag is open right off the bat here, which is really nice. Now you can see that the in route here is also getting open, but you also see that there are linebackers here and a user is going to pick somebody to cover. Now that's the one mesh point you have to think about, is that the drag route here, if I can get to the tight end, there we go. The drag route is going to mesh point right there with that speed in, that drag in. There's the one mesh point. And then if we backtrack over to here, you're going to see a second mesh point with those 2 routes. And now those 2 routes should, in a mesh concept, create a bit of a rub, which is going to end up getting the separation for one of them to get open. In this case, both of them got wide open. The reason why both of them got wide open was that the drag route actually pulled this guy across that way, which then opens up him on the backside of that, which then is how you get 3 different receivers open at 3 different points, which then that allows you to throw any receiver you want at any time, depending on how the defense is putting pressure on you. And quite frankly, this is one of the easier setups that also might end up being one of the most annoying because it's almost impossible to cover all 3 of those routes with a user defender. And you can also put Eddie Lacy on a swing route, and if you were to do that, like I'm going to show you in this example right here, you're going to end up with not only a great mesh and levels concept with those receivers, but you're going to end up with a very simple read on the outside to Y. And that's going to also bait a linebacker or a flat zone over there. And when you start drawing defenders to the flat, you end up creating havoc for your opponent to have to defend multiple points of the field for extended periods of time. Now that was a bit of a pressure scenario, as you can see, but this is just a very good setup because different receivers are open at different points. This play in general is really good because different receivers are open at different points. Now that was me making a play with Aaron Rodgers more than anything, but again, if you noticed, I had the tight end open over on the right side in the flat for a long period of time. But that's really all I got for Packer Smash. I hope you guys liked the play. I hope you guys kind of saw a bunch of different concepts. Maybe you pulled a few. Maybe you're pulling all of them. Maybe you're adding this to your custom playbook. Or maybe you have a play that you run in a different playbook that has some similar stuff in it that you can start incorporating some of these ideas, some of these concepts into your offense. Make sure you guys follow all my social stuff down there, on my Twitter, my Twitch, YouTube. Obviously, you're on YouTube right now. But until next time, guys, I'm out.